Welcome to Bet On It College Football Edition. I am Kelly Stewart, joined today, as always, by Joe Raineri and Marco D'Angelo of WagerTalk.com. Guys, it's conference championships. I'm so sad. College football went out with a bang. Florida could not get anything done for me, in fact, in the second half there, and cost me a 3-team moneyline parlay. What a fitting way to end the regular college football season. But I do like some dogs this weekend. It's definitely not starting off with this one, though. We're going to get right into it. Pac-12 championship game Friday night on ABC, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Oregon is a 9.5-point favorite in Las Vegas over Washington. Total 66. Marco, I had to call Ralph on this one. I'm like, what am I missing here? Washington has made me so much money in his college football season win pool this year, but they've only just been lackluster the second half of the season. Ever since they beat Oregon as short favorites, did not cover, this team just hasn't seemed like they have the desire to cover games. What's going on here?
Well, Kelly, like you said, you start with the line here. You're looking at a 9.5-point spread. How often do you see an undefeated team that beat the team they're playing be a 9.5-point underdog? That tells you something right away. And with this Washington team, I like this Washington team. I had them several times early in the season, and they were rolling. But it was almost after they beat the Oregon in that game halfway through the season. The second half of the season, it looked like a team to me that was playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Whether it was the added weight of the undefeated season, playing for a national championship. I mean, let's be honest. It's been a long time since Washington's been this relevant in college football. So this is something, that's different, for the pressure for the school, these kids and everything else. I mean, you're talking about major paydays if you get into the playoffs for the school. And let's not forget, we're dealing with, 20, 22-year-old kids. Now, Oregon, they've been down this road before. They've been a perennial power in the Pac-12. So going back to the game, they lost by 3 points. And if we're honest about it, you can blame the coach. If you remember that game against Washington, the math nerds were out in full bore for that one because the Oregon coach continued. Coach Lanning, Dan Lanning, reading his chart, and the math guys say, hey, it's 4th and 2. No, we're not kicking a field goal. Let's go for it. And it bit them a couple times. And lo and behold, what was it? A 3-point game that if you would have kicked those field goals that you got stopped on, they would have won that first meeting. They're playing good football right now. And the difference between these two teams is pure and simple. It's not on the offensive side of the football, although Oregon has put up better offensive numbers down the stretch. They are still number 2 and number 3 in the country at yards per play. The big difference between these two teams is the defense. Oregon is number 12 defensively at yards per play allowed, while Washington checks in at 62nd. That's going to be the difference in this game. I've got Oregon winning. I'm going to go ahead and lay the 9.5 in the conference championship. I've got Oregon winning by 14.
Boy, that breaks my heart, but I don't disagree here. It looks like Washington might end up being that square dog come Friday night. Joe, normally I'd look at the Slack channel and I would try to see who you guys are on so I know how to tee you up. But I have a very gross feeling. You like the under here.
Yes. Yeah, shocker, right? Yes. Actually, yeah, you're right. Absolutely they're going to be under. I mean, let's be realistic here. We have two teams that have spent the entire season being profitable to the under outside of the game against one another, which I don't think we're going to get a repeat of in this one. 7-4 to the under this year, these two teams combined. Outside of that game, they played against each other here. And I do think it feels like there's one team gaining steam and another team that it seems like is just holding on here. And it's certainly, and I'm going to agree with Marco, I think Oregon is the right side here with the points. But I do not see this being some sort of, back and forth like we got in that first one there. I think Washington is holding on for dear life. I think Oregon's defense is the better defense. I think Penix Jr. is going to have a much more difficult time in this one here. I only have them scoring around 20 points here. I think it's going to be 34-20, somewhere in that ballpark with Marco's 14 points. I don't see how we get to the mid to upper 60s at all here. This is about a win and you're in. That's how Oregon is looking at this. I wouldn't also consider, maybe if it's still available, Bo Nix as your Heisman winner. If it's anything less than the money line that Oregon right now is laying, which is around $3 here. If he wins this game, there is, as far as I'm concerned, he's your Heisman winner as well, and they will be playing for a national championship. But no way can I get to 66, 67 and thinking defenses are going to be optional in this game. Washington is running out of steam. Oregon is not. Oregon's defense learned a lot in that first matchup. They are not going to make the same kind of mistakes they made the first go-around. Give me the under.
Yeah, give me the under as well. Maybe even a little bit on that first half under. All right, I know it was quick, but I got to kick you guys out of here because these glasses only mean one thing. It's time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels. All right, Ralph, let's get into it. It is conference championship weekend, and you already delivered me the bad news. There is no nerd chart. What am I going to do? Either way, we do have those streakers from your son, Jeff, at JM Sports CLE on Twitter. You can always get those there, as well as the Wager Talk Instagram page.
Yeah, Kelly, I didn't do a chart for this reason. We're talking a small sample size with conference championships. You know, we're looking back. I went back about 8 years on most of these trends and angles, and they're unique each season. So I didn't want to put up a chart trying to sway people on what to do. And when we get to the streakers, we take a look at the number one streaker on the board, the amazing New Mexico State Aggies, 10 straight covers to finish the year. Congrats to them. 5 straight ATS losses for Colorado State, 8 straight overs for Alabama, or they've been over in their last 8 games or a push. You see the asterisk there for Bama. And Buffalo with 8 straight unders. What Jeff did is anyone that's playing this week, he underlined it so we can easily see that New Mexico State, App State going into the conference championship with ATS streaks, Bama with an over streak, Iowa and Tulane going into the conference championships with under streaks. And as always, both the college football and NFL streakers will be in the free Bet on It TNA guide posted on my homepage Thursday morning.
You love to see it. My New Mexico State Aggies that I took in Ralph's college football pool. I've been a big fan of Jerry Kill all year because of that team, helping me maybe get first place in that one. Okay, Ralph, what do we got? We got some quick hitters, even though they have some small sample sizes. And then we're going to talk some Army-Navy.
Absolutely. First, let me say this. Most conference championships are neutral games, but there are 4 that are hosted by one team. So I wanted to break down first, this is only for home teams. You're playing on your home field in the conference championship. Teams like Liberty, Tulane, and Troy that have been a home favorite of -3.5 or higher going back to 2016 have gone 13-5-1, 72.2%. So a nice number, 72% for conference championship home favorites of 3.5 or more. UNLV doesn't fit that mold. If you've been a dog or a small home favorite up to -3, only 11 times since 2016, and this is excluding the COVID year because there were so many weird things that happened that year. Those small home favorites are home dogs in the conference championship, only 5 and 6, 45.5%. So being a home favorite of 3.5 or more, a positive for Liberty, Tulane, and Troy. Being a dog or a small home favorite for UNLV, 1 game under the Mendoza line, 5 and 6 against the spread, 45.5%. So next, let's look at neutral favorites. This going back to 2016 as well, excluding the COVID year. Neutral favorites have gone 17 and 14, 45.8%. So nothing you're going to bet on. A slight lead to those teams that are neutral favorites. And Kelly, you and I talk about this. Joe Public talks about this. Experts talk about this. They say It is hard to beat the same team twice in a year. Well, there are two teams playing for the second time this year, Washington, Oregon, and Toledo, Miami. So the teams that won the first game of the season and now are facing each other in the conference matchup, they have actually won 64.1% of the time. So it's not hard to beat a team twice. You do it almost 2 out of every 3 times. I will say this, though. They have only covered 47.4%. So beating a team a second time happens 2 out of 3 times. Covering in that second meeting, they haven't done. They've only gone 47.4%. I thought this one was interesting, and it's a decent sample size. You have more wins than your opponent. That's simple. You're in a conference championship, and you have the better record. Those teams like Washington over Oregon have actually covered 55.1%. But I do want to mention this. This is the first time since 2011 that a team that has more wins has been a dog of more than 4.5. Joe Public, how can Washington be ranked number 4, be undefeated, have beaten Oregon at home, and being a 9.5 or 10-point dog in the Las Vegas Bowl? Well, actually, I have Oregon as a 10.5-point favorite on my power rating, so I think the number's correct. But again, teams with more wins have covered 55.1%. And the final conference championship TNA, if one team is off a win and one team is off a loss, so Boise and Florida State are coming in off wins, UNLV and Louisville are coming in off a loss, the teams coming in off a win like Boise and Florida State have only gone 10 and 16, 38.5% against the spread. So again, let's take this with a grain of salt. We're talking about 26 games, we're talking about 7 years, and we're talking about unique situations each time. So of all the TNA during the regular season and the bowls, the conference championship TNA means the least to me because each setting is an absolutely unique situation where during the regular season over a 10-year sample size, you have hundreds of games and the trends tend to be more consistent.
I like it. It makes a lot of sense, Ralph, even though they are small sample sizes. Again, remember, guys, these are trends, angles, situations to help make you a better. Doesn't always mean you should stay off a bet. Doesn't always mean you should play on a bet. Ralph, because we have no college football show next week, I did want to touch on Army-Navy. I got to go to this game last year. It was awesome. And mainly because it went to overtime and finally went over the total.
Yeah, well, you look at service academies. First, let me say this. From Army-Navy, I'm looking back at the database. From 2006 to 2021, it was 16 straight unders in Army-Navy. Last year in regulation, under the total. Again, a game goes to overtime, and they score 37 points in that situation. I will say this, 4 of the last 7 games have been upsets. And remember that stretch up to 2015 where Navy had won 14 straight games? Straight up. Army now 5-2 straight up the last 7 seasons. 6-3 ATS the last 9. And the dog in Army-Navy has gone 9-3. 2 of my most popular tweets this year, Kelly, were when Navy played Air Force and Air Force played Army. And I tweeted, friends don't let friends bet service academy games under the total. Well, going back to 2006, every service academy game, the dog is 31-19, 62%. And listen to this. The over-under is 10, 42-1, 19.2%. But now let's give the asterisk. In my database to 2006, anytime Navy, Army, and Air Force play each other, the average line has been 47.3. There was incredible value with this situation back in the early 2000s, 2010, even up to 2015 or 16. But then the sharps started jumping on the bandwagon. So while the average total is 47.3, this week's line, the current line for Army and Navy is 28 points. So, yes, it's an 81% system on the under, but you do have to take it with a grain of salt, as Vegas has clearly caught up to this. With that said, I would still never bet the over in this game. I don't care how low the total is. So it's either, to me, you lean with the under or you pass the situation. But still, it lets you think about playing the dog and the under in this situation.
Awesome stuff. As always, from Ralph, make sure you guys are giving him a follow at CalSportsLV. And I'm actually creating Ralph on Instagram. I just need him to check his Slack messages. All right, we will see Ralph later. It is now time to preview my favorite conference. That's right, it's the Big 12. Let's bring back in Marco and Joe. I don't know why I still have these on. I can't even see out of them. They're all just a prop. You know what's not a prop? My best bet. It's going to be in the Big 12 championship game. And we'll get to that later on. Saturday, ABC, 12 noon Eastern. Oklahoma State, 14.5-point underdog versus Texas, total 55. Joe, I'm going to go to you first here. This is your alma mater. I watched the Barry Sanders doc last night, and I almost texted you how awesome would it have been to watch Barry live. And then I remembered you were not that old.
Yes. No. I did beat him there, though, in his offseason one time. Him and Thurman Thomas, absolute buildings, those two dudes. So I will say this. Gundy is a dog. We all know it. It's been well documented. It's very scary to think that you are going to blow this team out when they are not expected to win. In his tenure, that has not been a very profitable angle to take. But I'm going to concentrate on the total because it's funny you mentioned Barry Sanders. We sort of have a Barry Sanders 2.0 on this team named Ollie Gordon, by the way. If you guys have not seen what this guy is doing, this kid is absolutely phenomenal. He is a workhorse. He is exactly the kind of running back that can give Texas all sorts of fits here. I think there are points coming. I do not see the Oklahoma State defense having a ton of success stopping Texas, but on the same time, I think Oklahoma State's offense, I think with the running game, as Gordon goes, they will go. This won't be an issue, obviously, in Arlington for weather, not like it was at UCF a couple of weeks ago for Oklahoma State. I think Bowman's going to make enough plays in the air. I don't see how this doesn't turn into, unlike the other game, I don't see how this doesn't turn into a shootout. I wouldn't go anywhere near 14.5 points, but I will definitely go over 55 in this one.
Marco, would you go anywhere near 14.5 points?
Well, yeah, I'm going to take them. That's where I'm going to go. This is the thing. I mean, when you look at this game on paper, okay, it looks like a mismatch. And as Joe said, every time Oklahoma State's an underdog and nobody gives them a shot, that's when they end up surprising you. Now, last week, they were life and death with a not very good BYU team. So, what was up with that? Well, we could say, hey, they knew that they just had to win and they were going to get into this one. Maybe they looked past them. All fine and dandy. Now they're here. So they're going to get the job done, right? You look at Texas and everybody's going to say, you know what? Texas, they won in a, blowout last week. They scored 57 points. It was a rout, 57-7, all this and that. Well, you know what? Here's the problem that concerns me about Texas. If I'm missing something, somebody correct me. But I'm trying to figure out if there's any path that gets Texas into the playoffs, and I just don't see it. People are talking, if Alabama beats Georgia, they deserve to be one of the 4 teams. Well, didn't Texas beat Alabama? And they're already putting Alabama in front of them. It's just, I don't know where their focus is going to be. Yeah, maybe do they want to put a middle finger up as they're going out the door of the Big 12? That could be, but I can tell you this much. How many calls are they going to get in this game? I don't think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt on any close calls. I think they're going to go Oklahoma State's way because, you know what? I think the Big 12 wants to, slam the door in their butt on their way out is them and Oklahoma left. I'm going to go ahead and take Oklahoma State here. They got nothing to lose here. They're free rolling, in my opinion. Nobody gives them a shot, and that's when they are the most dangerous. And as Joe said, there is only one way for them to get this game, get to the finish line.
shorten it. And by shortening it, you're going to run, and you're going to run some more. As long as they can keep moving the chains on the ground, that's going to play right into their hands, and I think they can do it against Texas. I don't disagree with Joe. I think there will be points in this game, but I'm going to go ahead and take Oklahoma State plus the 14.5. And you know what? How many points do you think are built into this line? Because people are going to throw out the old saying, oh, Texas is going to run up the score. They need style points. They can't get enough style points. They're not getting in. Forget about it. Go with Oklahoma State.
Oh boy, Marco, you're going to make the Longhorns fans in our chat very angry. They somehow seem to think they're still going to get in. They got to win. They need a couple other people to lose. So we're going to see if there isn't some chaos on the rest of Saturday, especially in the SEC. If Alabama wins, there's rumors that there might not be an SEC team in. Come on. Saturday, CBS, 4 p.m. Eastern, Alabama, a 6-point underdog versus Georgia, total 55. Marco, you remember this game 2 years ago? The exact same spread. And everybody loved Georgia, except for me. And I said, I love Alabama. Give me Nick Saban in those points. And then I turned right around, Marco. And you know what I did? I laid the points in the national championship game with Georgia. Because that's what you do. You figure out the situations here between the two coaches, and you figure out who needs it more. This game's a little bit different, though, and it's kind of got my mind in a pretzel, so maybe you can help untangle it a little bit. I do have a slight lean here towards the Tide. I do think Jalen Milroe could possibly have a big game here, but man, this Dogs defense is good.
It is good, Kelly. And I'll tell you what, I'll pat myself on the back. I've been pretty good going with Georgia this year, picking the spots where I've done it, because a lot of people remember at the beginning of the season when this team was 5-0 straight up, but 0-4-1 against the spread, and everybody was, what's wrong with Georgia? What's wrong with Georgia? You know what was wrong with Georgia? They were freaking bored. That's what was wrong with Georgia, okay? They won back-to-back national championships, and it's early September football. Who cares? They knew all they had to do was win. It didn't matter by how many, because they hadn't lost in how long. Just keep winning. You're going to be one of those 4 teams at the end of the year. But every time Georgia played a step-up game, somebody that was going to give them a run for their money, and the first one was everybody was hyping Kentucky going to Georgia. Nope, not me. I had Georgia as a big play. That's what's happened with them. They come to play. And I'm tired of watching this Alabama team pull games out of their butt. They should not have won last week. Were they looking ahead? Of course they were. But there's still no excuse to be losing outright and be outplayed for the entire game. If it wasn't for the Auburn turnovers, they don't win and the miracle throw at the end of the game. I like Georgia. They are going to roll on Saturday. I've got them winning by 13. And let's just end all of this nonsense of trying to get Alabama and Saban back into the playoffs. Okay? Go home. You're done. It's over.
Marco's just trying to piss off every major fan base in one show. I'm here for it. I'm just going to embrace the villain role today. We'll talk about it in the NFL show, what I said on my other show this morning about our producers team. Joe Raineri, do you think the Tide have a chance to spring the upset here and really create some chaos in the college football playoff?
Listen, I don't know what kind of funky-ass sage they're burning over there in Alabama, but the fact that they won that game last week, and this is even a relevant conversation, is beyond me here. Nick Saban and the luck factor for Bama to be here in this spot is crazy. Now, part of you probably goes, well, maybe it's meant to be, right? It's just deal with it here. Alabama. It's always better when Alabama's relevant. And boy, that kind of bounce that they got there and the luck that they had to win against Auburn, who wants to step in front of that train? Well, Georgia does. And do you know how hard it is to go 3 in a row, people, in a national championship with different quarterbacks, no less? This is a tough spot for Georgia. But unlike Marco, I'm not going to piss anybody off. I'm going to stay right here in the middle, and I'm going to go with the total here because I do believe this is another game in which we are going to get points. And we usually do, right? In the SEC championship games, I believe, right? 12 of the last 14 have gone way over their numbers here. Certainly, we know Georgia offensively, Milroe and Alabama can certainly get into the red zone. And we don't have to convert a whole lot of red zone opportunities into touchdowns for both of these teams to get over this number here. And I think you're going to have to score. This is not going to be some sort of crazy defensive battle here, I think. There's going to be one team that makes a few more defensive plays. But by the time that happens, this is going to be over the total. Expect Georgia never to take their foot off the gas. Expect Alabama never to take their foot off the gas. I think this is maybe the highest scoring game of the weekend.
Ooh, overbetters can rejoice. They love to hear that. All right, we still have ACC championship, the Big Ten championship, and of course, best bets to go. But first, we're going to check in with my main man, VR, for some of that gold.
All right, thank you, guys. I got some college football in this week. The betting syndicates did not wait to get out and try to get ahead of the market, and obviously ahead of other sharp bettors that are trying to get down at some of these good numbers, especially with conference championship games. Limits are higher from earlier in the week. They only increase as we approach game time. I have so far sent out a 5% play, I think 3 or 4% plays, and a 3% play. So from this batch I'm going to share you, there's definitely some gold. I want to thank those of you who have been with me this entire college football season. We are sitting at number 1 in profit, close to a 5% ROI, which is the number I said before the season started in the steam room. That's the goal, to get to that. Well, we got there. Hopefully the Bulls are even better. Historically, they have been. And thank you again for your continued support. We're finishing first in profit in college football and sitting number 1 overall for 2023. Here's some of that college football. Game 316, Tulane -3. Game 305, Oregon, Washington, under 67.5, under 67. Game 307, earlier in the week, New Mexico State at +10.5, New Mexico State at +10, and the under 55.5 and 55, the over, 55 and 55.5 in that New Mexico State and Liberty game. Also, Georgia Bulldogs -5, 5.5, and 6. SMU +4. SMU, sprinkle a little money line at +6, 160 as well. Oregon Ducks -9 and 9.5. We'll get the double digits. Can you believe it, against Washington? We will see. And finally, Louisville game 321. Louisville +3, -115. Miami, Ohio, Toledo under 45.5. Also, multiple groups got down, but that number got away from us pretty quickly as the under has been slammed. And two side of the total that came in today, I haven't vetted it yet, so it's on you how you want to deal with it. Game 324, Iowa +22.5. Game 309, Oklahoma State, Texas over 55. Like I said, a lot of action early in the week for the college football Saturday action. Best of luck. Do some damage, cash them, don't trash them. Smash that like button.
Thank you, as always, to VR, the Greek Gambler, at Greek_Gambler on Twitter, X, and Instagram, whichever you want to call it these days. He is the best, and we appreciate him taking time out of his day to share his wealth of knowledge. Let's go into that ACC championship game. Now, I know it's not what everybody thought it was going to be without Jordan Travis, but I think it will be a good game. Saturday, ABC, 8 p.m. Eastern. Louisville is a 2.5-point dog to Florida State. Total 48.5. Joe, you and I both had Kentucky last week. I appreciate the nudge there. They got the outright win because maybe the Birds were looking ahead to this one. Your thoughts on Florida State, who got to escape Gainesville?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, it was close. If only damn Graham Mertz was still the quarterback there and didn't get hurt. Damn it, Graham. If you're not screwing us in Wisconsin, you're screwing us over here in Florida and not showing up for the game when we needed you most. Very winnable game last week, and kudos to Florida State for pulling it out with a backup quarterback. However, man, this is a big ask for a Florida State team who is really a shell of themselves offensively without, Jordan Travis there under center. Now, listen, I'll give the Rodemaker, the kid, some credit. He can certainly throw the ball, but what Travis brought to the table, which Rodemaker doesn't, is the ability to run the ball and the threat of him being able to get yardage running the ball. They had a great rushing game against Florida, except the defense of Florida, let's face it, is not great. And Louisville, maybe the best thing to happen to them was losing that game there. Another Jeff Brom throw up all over yourself special, which we all learned too frequently when he was with Purdue. Well, welcome to the Brom era, Louisville fans, because that's what you can expect over the next couple of years with him as your head coach. However, I think this is a different spot. I think Louisville is now in the role of an opportunity to play spoiler. I think you're right. They looked ahead. This was the game they wanted. And if you are ever going to take down Florida State this year, it's going to be because of the circumstances surrounding this team right now. This is a tough game for Florida State. I think they'll give it a go. Ultimately, I think Louisville wins this game. Either way, I'm taking as many points as you want to give me. It was 3. It's down to 2.5. I think Louisville gets it with a late field goal. They do just enough to win it. And unfortunately for Florida State, they're going to have to spend the rest of the time figuring what could have been.
Oh, this team. I don't know what to make of this Florida State team. I said all year I wasn't that high on them, and then they just made me look like a complete and utter jackass. Marco, I agree with Joe here. I lean the Cardinals plus 2.5. I don't think I'm going to actually get to the window with this team. Are you getting to the window with this game whatsoever?
Yeah, Kelly, I like Louisville as well in this situation. Last week, Florida State, kudos to them. They got the job done. It was an ugly game. But, how many times do we say it? We talk about it on the NFL level all the time, the injured player theory. And that's what you had with Florida State. They rallied around. It was, us against the world. We don't have our star quarterback. And they were able to get the one win. But what do I always do with the injured player theory? Yeah, I take the injured team that first game. And when they get the win, what am I doing? I'm going against them the next week. And that's what we're going to do here because they are playing a Louisville team that, there is no question in my mind that Louisville was looking ahead to this game. Yeah, I know they only had one loss, but they were not getting into the national championship conversation. They were looking at a rivalry game with Kentucky. Yeah, I get that. But which do you think means more to these kids? The rivalry in state with Kentucky or actually winning the ACC championship? It's this week. And if you look at this Louisville team, they only had one loss entering last week. When was that loss? Oh, yeah. I believe Kelly and I both were on Pitt in that game. Why? Because Louisville was coming off that major upset of Notre Dame when everybody was talking Notre Dame and drinking the Kool-Aid at the beginning of the season after a couple easy wins by Notre Dame. Louisville took them down, and they were flat as a pancake, a sloppy game against Pitt on the road the following week. You'll see the real Louisville team this week, and I think they get the job done. I know it's taboo, and I'll get called out on Twitter and YouTube for it, but if there was ever a time that I was tempted to use a teaser in college football, I would be tempted to use Louisville here, getting 2.5 and getting them up over the 8.5, because I just don't see how Florida State is going to get points in this game. I know you're not supposed to do it in college football. I understand that. Don't act me, but I'm just telling you, if I was ever tempted, this is the game, okay? Relax.
Don't at me. Oh, Marco. Yeah, I get it. I do think this is going to be within a touchdown one way or another. I just hope Louisville wins outright and creates some chaos. You know, another team I'd love to see win outright to create some chaos, but it's probably not going to happen. Big Ten championship game Saturday, Fox, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Iowa is a 23-point underdog to Michigan. Total 35.5. Marco, this is a very, very big spread for a championship game. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. And yeah, I can't wait to see what form of an under that Joe's going to come in whenever his play comes up. Is it going to be first quarter? Is it going to be the first half? Is it going to be the full game? Is it going to be the Iowa team total? I know something's going to be coming. I'm just waiting to see what it's going to be from Joe. But here we go. We got a 23-point favorite. You've got Michigan, all right? They, for all intents and purposes, for everybody in the world that watched the game last week, the Big Ten championship was crowned last week. The winner of that game wins the Big Ten. This game means nothing, okay? That's what people are going to view it as. And on paper, it looks like it's going to be an absolute blowout. And everybody is pointing out, well, look at the one, whenever Iowa stepped up and they went to Penn State, they got beat 31-0. Okay, you know what? Yeah, they did. Have you gone to Penn State? Not an easy place to play. It was also the whiteout game. They also had 3 or 4 turnovers in that game. Yeah, they got blown out. I get it. What does Michigan have to play for? They win by 1 or they win by 100. They're in. That's it. All they got to do is win. And we talked about the injured player theory and everything a couple of weeks ago when the suspension came down, and I was there that week. I told everybody that I was with, this is a benefit for Michigan. Now they've got added fuel to the fire. Their leader's not there. It's the same as the injured player theory. Guess what? The injured player's coming back this week. Yeah, Harbaugh's going to ride in on his white horse. Is he going to run the score up, just to put up a middle finger as he wins the Big Ten championship and heads off to an NFL team next year? I don't know, but I just don't see it. I look at this Iowa team. They're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose. Michigan, I just don't see the motivation of blowing them out in this game. If I have to play it, and that's a big if, hear that word if I played it, I'm playing Iowa plus the points or I'm not playing the game. Most likely I'm not playing the game, but I can't lay 23 points here, Kelly. No way.
Joe, I can't really either. But situationally, Marco made some good points actually for both sides here. And then he made fun of you about possibly taking yet another under. But I just looked in the back end. You're not taking an under.
Oh, hell no. Am I taking an under? Can we just throw that graphic back up here? Let's do the math quick if we could. So you're telling me I'm going to lay close to 4 touchdowns and the total is 35.5. So, okay, so I guess the only team scoring here is Michigan. Is that what the market is telling us? That Michigan and maybe an empty netter or 2 from Iowa? Well, if that's the case, I ain't taking the damn under because, listen, if there's one thing we know about Iowa, special teams off the charts. There's going to be a punt block, a run back. Something is going to happen here with Iowa that's going to allow them to get at least a couple of scores on the board, if not more here. But unlike Marco, I don't see Michigan taking their foot off the gas at all under any circumstances. Do I think they're even going to give Iowa an opportunity here to get it done? Now, Iowa, the only defense that Iowa played worth of crap was Penn State, and that didn't work out all that well for them. I think they were shut out in that game 31-0. This is a much better offense for Michigan. But Iowa in these spots has proven time and time again, yes, they are more than capable of making and winning ugly games. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to have a say in this one, but I also don't think they're getting shut out. I do think they're going to score enough points, and we all know Michigan's going to score enough points. 23.5 with a total of 35. Yeah, I got 35 already, but I got Michigan scoring 35, and I don't need a whole lot more from Iowa to get this thing up and over the total, Kel.
Wow. Okay, then. So everybody who has been making money on those Iowa unders, Joe said, be thankful, but those days are gone. Well, you know other days are gone? Our best bets for college football. Yeah, we're going to be back. We're going to have a bowl preview or 3 probably, but I'm sad. So I'm going to kick it right off here with my last best bet. I guess it's not even the regular season anymore.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know. I can hear it now. All the Texas fans in my mentions, you hate Texas. You hate Texas. No, I don't hate Texas. I don't care about Texas. But what I can tell you is that Texas is consistently overvalued week in and week out, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's not my fault. I'm not the one who is the odds maker here. It is what it is. Now, we know Texas does hold, a little bit of an advantage over the Cowboys, but not since Gundy's been in charge. Oklahoma State has been fairly dominant against this team in recent years. They won 6 of their last 8, including a couple of years ago in Austin and last year in Stillwater. Now, as Joe alluded to, there might be a guy in the backfield for the Cowboys that could slow down this game, take away time of possession from the Longhorns. But more than that, I do think that there's a couple of stud receivers there for the Cowboys that can make some big plays. Yes, Quinn Ewers is going to be back. He is healthy. Xavier Worthy is healthy. So I do think the Longhorns offense might try to put up some numbers as well. As Joe mentioned, he may like the over in this one, but I think 14.5 points is too many for Gundy as an underdog. Ralph Michaels is going to tweet out something for you guys. I believe it was 22-8 against the spread was the correct data that he gave me. So give me Oklahoma State plus the 14.5. Don't worry, Longhorns fans. I didn't say you guys are going to lose outright. Everybody relax. 2 touchdowns. I'll take them. Marco D'Angelo has a special message for you guys before he gets into his best bet.
Yeah, Kelly, you talk about being sad to see the college season go. There's nobody sadder than I am. We've rolled off 12 college best bets in a row. We lost week 0, which is the stupidest thing there is, week 0, and rolled off 12 since then. We're going for number 13 this week, and we've got a special for you guys. It's my Lucky 13 package, and you can pick up all of 2024. That's 12 full months of service, every play I release in every sport. That includes horse racing as well when we have all the Triple Crown races and special Kentucky Derby prep races. You get everything I release for 12 months for $1,200, and I'll sweeten the deal. Since we're going for 13 in a row, let's make it a baker's dozen. I'll throw in the month of December, the final month of the year, free as a bonus. You pick up 13 months for $1,200, less than $100 a month for 13 months. Get on board, join us. Let's celebrate the big year that we had, and let's keep it going and close it out with number 13. I'm going to go to the MAC conference this week. We're going to take a look at Miami and Toledo. And you know what? People make fun of the MAC, all the time and that, no defense, this and that, and for the most part, that's what it is. But you know what? We got the 2 best teams in the conference here in the championship game, as it should be, no surprises. And you look at this Toledo team, they've only got 1 loss on the season. It was out of conference. That was the first week of the season at Illinois. They lose by 2 points to an Illinois team. Granted, Illinois didn't have a great year, but it was a Big Ten school first, right out of the blocks. Then they ran the table, won all of their MAC conference games. And we look at Miami. Miami only lost 1 MAC conference game. Who was it to? Yeah, it was to Toledo. It was only by 4 points. So why do I want Toledo in this one? Miami's playing with revenge. Well, Toledo's been there all season long. Toledo was there last year. They've got the experience factor of playing in this conference championship. And unlike a lot of the conference championships this weekend, it's not the home team, the number 1 seed, gets to play at home. This is on a neutral site, as it should be for a championship game. And I point that out because Toledo, what's even more impressive about their streak is if you look their undefeated conference season, the last 7 games of the season, 5 of the 7 games were on the road. 3 of the last 4 games were those midweek games, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Those are always tougher to play because they mean more. And if you're playing on the road in one of those games, big advantage to the home team playing the midweek games. You get up for that, TV coverage, everything else. I love this Toledo team. Both teams can move the football, but Toledo is better. Toledo is 20th in scoring. They're averaging 35 points a game. Miami is 67th in the country, averaging 27 points per game. Yeah, Miami's a little better on defense, but I just don't think they can stop this balanced Toledo team. You hear me talk about 200 club members all the time. I love those kind of teams that can do equal balance, running and passing over 200 yards. You can't get any more balanced than this team is they rush for 215 and they throw for 218. Give me Toledo. I'm going to go ahead, take them. They scored 31 or more the last 7 of the last 9 weeks. And as I said, they averaged 35 on the season per game. Give me Toledo, the final best bet. Let's make it 13-0. Guys, you went into the comment section in YouTube last week as I asked you. It was good karma, good juju. A lot of guys said, let's go 12-0. Let's do it again this week. Let's go 13-0. Get that algorithm up for us, guys.
I love to hear it, Marco. Getting love. You guys never give Marco love, so I appreciate him working so hard to gain all of your affection. Joe, you and I don't have to work that hard. It just comes natural to us. Who's your best bet this week?
Yeah, well, that's why we keep hitting these dogs the way we're doing. My goodness, they'll love us. I'm telling you, they'll love us here. But not as much as Marco, because that's been one hell of a run this year on Bet On It for you. But we do have a best bet this week that I think we might all be in agreement with, quite honestly. But I can tell you, if you were following the dogs here over the last couple of weeks, this was one of the ones that cashed big for us, and that was App State. Mark, you remember how big that was? Do you want me to show you how big it was, Mark, one more time? Because I can. It was big. Remember, as a 9, 10, 11 point underdog there. And they got it done at James Madison. Remember when, of course, you had ESPN there, Game Day was there, and there's no way that James Madison said, well, guess what? James Madison lost in overtime. And part of the reason is, look at the trajectory of what happened with App State to start the year, where they began and where they ended up. And just in the month of November, I mean, the strides this defense has made for App State has been absolutely unbelievable. And they have played quite the gauntlet as underdogs in a lot of spots here against Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, to name a few here. They've had to go on the road as a dog, and they've had to win games in which nobody gave them any credit to do so. Now they got to take on a Troy team who was in this championship game a year ago, right? They got to go on the road to Alabama, to Troy, to take on a team that, quite honestly, I think overachieved a little bit here this year. Plus, the argument can be made that they're in the weaker side of the division. I get a school in App State that has always been known as a running school until they had this year when they had Aguiar take over, and this kid has been absolutely nothing short of phenomenal. Close to 3,300 yards this year of passing, 33 touchdown passes here, 4 interceptions. The kid has been absolute money. He is a big reason why they are in this game after beating James Madison and playing the way they have down the stretch. But to me, this game all comes down to defense. Nobody has been playing better defense than what App State has done. Now, Troy's got a great defensive team. Don't love their offense. I think these two teams are even on so many different ways, but I think ultimately you want to give me close to a touchdown, 6.5 points in a game that in all likelihood is going to be decided by a field goal at best. Yeah, no, I'll take the 6.5 points. I'm going one more time for App State. Not as big, Marco, as it was last time we went with them, but still big enough at 6.5.
Yeah, I bet this one yesterday. I texted Joe and I said, so do you want Oklahoma State or do you want App State for your best bet? Because I knew we were going to be on the same page. There's only a few games. Like, sometimes you just know your audience.
Yep.
And so I let Joe out the deciding factor, but I did bet App State. And now I guess I got to be looking at Toledo as well. Real quick, we'll throw up that recap graphic, even though there isn't a ton to recap. Well, I guess maybe there is. We got tons of championship games. Lots of agreement, lots of totals for you total bettors. So you guys should be happy there. As always, we hope you guys enjoyed this wonderful football season and got to cash on some of those barking dog sandwich games and best bets from Joe, Marco, Ralph, VR, and myself, good luck. Until next week, we'll see you guys on the NFL show. Let's bet on it.